Good morning and welcome to the first forum of the year. Today we're going to be having building leadership through leadership capacity through wellness. And we are inviting Shelley Eden to the stage today. I'd like to share a little bit more about Eden. I'm sorry. Actually, her name is not Shelley Eden. That was my mistake. Her name is Eden Sulzer. I apologize for that. Eden Sulzer. Eden has more than 20 years of experience in marketing and communications as a leader in corporate and agency settings. She has an expertise specifically in personal branding. In her work as a leadership coach at Crosworks, Eden is known for her ability to identify her clients' unique talents and aspirations and develop clear plans to turn their visions into reality. Before transitioning to her coaching career, she served as the director of marketing in Cardinal Health's pharmaceutical distribution business and led the company's internal communication function. She is deeply committed to gender parity, helping women address the barriers they face in pursuing leadership and entrepreneurship, recognizing the gender gap in pharmacy ownership. She founded Cardinal Health Women in Pharmacy, a nationally recognized network and leadership development program for aspiring female pharmacy owners. This program was featured at the 2014 United Nations International Women's Day Forum and served as a case study for the Center of Talent and Innovation's Power for the Purse research. She has had the privilege of being a mentor to aspiring leaders throughout her career, which also included management roles at Dick & Eaton, a Cleveland-based PR firm, and NCR Corporation, where she was named one of the company's top 1% employees. Eden is a graduate of the E.W. Scripps School of Journalism at Ohio University, and she's board certified in the Berkram method, an employee behavioral health assessment. Before we bring Eden to the stage today, I would like to have a little bit of housekeeping. Today's is a bit different, so listen up for those changes. Today's webinar is being recorded, which means that you will have access to this recording after the forum concludes. It will be sent to the email address that you used to register for this forum today, so keep an eye out for those emails, which will also include resources at the end of this forum. Live captioning is available, and if you choose to use it, please take a look at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. The directions for this has changed a little bit. You will see at the bottom of your screen live transcriptions, and when you take a click on that, you'll see it offers you what language you would like those in. You can select your language, and if you need to change the size or positioning, there's a caret to the right of that allows a settings box. If you have questions related to the content of this forum, please plop those right in the Q&A box. That's where we will find them. If you have technical questions about the functionality of the forum, please go ahead and put those in the chat box. The chat box will not be monitored for content-related questions, so if you have a question about the content for Eden, please go ahead and put those into the Q&A. The slides for this will be sent out after the recording. And here's the new part of this forum. Today, we will be testing out a survey during the forum using a Zoom poll. But just between the presentation and the Q&A period, you will have a pop-up come up on your screen that asks you to take a short survey of 3 questions that allows us to learn a little bit more about how you feel about our nonprofit forums and about this one in particular. It's only 3 questions, so please take a moment to fill it out. If you have any questions about anything at all regarding this forum, but in particular that, please go ahead and pop those questions into the chat box. If you have long form feedback that you'd like to give us, please go ahead and email us at contact us at columbusfoundation.org. Please note all of these surveys are anonymous, except for the email part. All of these surveys are anonymous, so whatever feedback you leave, we won't know that it's you, and we're really hoping to hear from you. I'd like to bring Eden to the stage. She can pop on for a second. Eden, I'm really, really sorry about your name. I just had a moment there and had to check back in.
It's okay. Shelly Stotzer is on the line with us. Shelly and I can sort of be merged as one person. It happens. And I'm just very happy to be here. And thank you, Danielle, for that really kind introduction.
No problem. I'll let you take it from here.
Great. Well, hi, everyone. I am really happy to be here with you today. And it's really meaningful from a number of perspectives. I know a couple, maybe more, of my friends and clients who are part of nonprofit organizations here in Columbus are out there. I can't see you, but for all of you, my goal is to help you feel seen. And that really is the crux of what we do at Crosworks, the organization that I am honored to be a part of. In our coaching, we help people find clarity to be their best. And part of that is the ability to take care of oneself. So today we're going to launch into that, and it is a big part of my coaching philosophy is helping people live their best lives, not just at work, but in life, right? That's what we're all going after. So we're going to get started, and I am going to pull up my slides, and we're going to do a little experiment here, which is to see if I can be in presenter mode and not have you see my notes. So I'm going to wait for either Danielle or Tori or one of my friends at the Columbus Foundation to let me know whether or not they can see my notes. And it says we cannot see your notes. So, hey, this is like a triumph. I'm learning new things every day about how to use Zoom. So let's get to it. Danielle talked a lot about the professional things, right? The achievements, all of that good stuff. But there's more to it, right? There's more to it for all of us. And you'll see on the right side, I added a few things that I wanted you to know about me. I wear a lot of hats. I am a wife to my husband, Eric, who we've been married for 23 years. We met at Ohio University, so I got to give a shout out to all the Bobcats that are out there. I'm a mom, and I love being a mom. I have two kiddos. Darren is a 19-year-old freshman at Ohio State, and my daughter, Mia, is a freshman in high school. Beyond wife and mom, I am a sister, I'm a daughter, I'm a friend, I'm an aunt, I'm a volunteer, all of those good things, as I know you are as well. What I want to underscore is the last bullet point. I'm a work in progress, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud to say that I am still learning how to live my best life, and in a lot of cases, I'm unlearning. And when I left corporate America to make a change in my life back in, goodness gracious, 2018, I really kind of started a quest, not like an eat, pray, love quest where, you go to Italy and do all that stuff. I didn't have that kind of money, but I started a quest to figure out, how do I take better care of myself? How do I achieve some level of joy in the work that I do? And that work continues today. So we're going to talk today about purpose, and we're going to talk about what moves us, our why. And you'll see on the left side of the slide, there's this 6-word brand. And this is an exercise that we do with clients at Crosworks. And it's part of the exercise of being able to express and articulate your personal and professional brand. And I have to say, you have to be pretty clear about who you are and what you stand for to be able to boil it down to 6 words. So mine is dream big, bold, and pull people up. And that is the nature of what gets me up in the morning and what brings me here to talk to you today. So you have heard already about the notion of well-being, and maybe even the topic of today, which we're going to get to in a minute, which is all about essentially treating yourself as an athlete. Disclaimer, I am not a sports psychologist. I am not a human performance expert. I don't have a PhD. But what I do have are some years in the game, right? Some years of working, experiences, and also the advice and wisdom of a network of colleagues, of friends, of trainers, of experts that I've been able to tap into all over my career and throughout the years. So what are we doing today? What journey am I taking you on? Well, here it is. We are going to be talking about an article called The Making of a Corporate Athlete. And you see that pyramid on the slide is one of the main kind of components of that article and the research that was done by Jim Lohr and Tony Schwartz. What I think is pretty fantastic about The Making of a Corporate Athlete is this was back in 2001. So think about that for a minute. Some of these ideas around mindfulness, meditation, and self-care, these guys were pretty ahead of their time, right? I think of that time and, meditation and yoga and all that kind of stuff seemed like something that people on the West Coast did, right? Now, we all are starting to embrace these things. So as we go through the agenda, we're going to talk about the why. Why is this important? We're going to go through the high performance period, layer by layer, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. We're going to talk about both what those are and what are some of the habits and rituals that you can adopt in order to increase your capacity. And we're going to end with some inspiration for you to put these things into practice in the form of an action plan. So let's get started. Why is this important? We love a good quote at Crossworks, and Shelley actually found this one. So I'll read it to you because I think it's really going to resonate with all of you and the lives that you lead. Quote, rest and self-care are so important. When you take time to replenish your spirit, it allows you to serve others from the overflow. You cannot serve from an empty vessel. So I think Eleanor Brown is really onto something. She is a New York Times writer, best-selling author. But for many of you, you are serving every day, all day long. But are you replenishing your spirit? Are you serving from an empty vessel? And what are we going to do about it? So we talk about, this article is called The Making of a Corporate Athlete, but I took some liberties here, as you can see, and I'm calling it The Making of a Nonprofit Athlete, right? And before I get into it, I have to tell you a funny story. Not a story, it's really a reaction to the fact that I'm talking about something that has the word athlete in it. My sports career and athletics history goes back to high school, speech and debate, choir, and student council. So there's not a whole lot of athletics in my background, but I have to tell you, once I got to college, I really discovered the power of exercise as a way to breathe, to stay calm, and to increase my self-esteem. So know that what we're talking about today is not athletics per se. It's about optimizing for leadership performance. How do you do that? It's really this, aligning your vision, your personal and professional vision with habits. Vision with habits. It's also about thinking about discipline, right? Athletes, people in professional sports don't just kind of willy-nilly live their lives. There is a cadence, there's a system, and there's a heck of a lot of discipline. What does that lead to? It really leads to that magic thing we call energy and longevity. Those occur, and those are the result of discipline, habits, and rituals. But it's not just about the brain. It's not just about cognitive capacity, right? How intelligent we are. That's part of it, and that's great. But there's more. It is the body, emotions, mind, and spirit, right? You put all those together, you are going to improve performance. And even more importantly, you're going to enhance your health and your happiness. Sounds easy, right? Not so fast. So these are the things that get in the way, right? These are these things we tell ourselves that probably aren't true. I'm going to read a couple of them here. If I'm not busy, people might not think I add value. We have a tight budget. I have to do this myself. Here's one I hear all the time. Things will slow down next week, next month, next year, ... And then here's a doozy for you. There's time to rest when I am dead. So what I want to hear, I want a little engagement here. And I know Danielle said we weren't using the chat function, but now I'm going to tell you, I want you to plug into the chat. What are some of the things that you tell yourself or you've heard along the way that may get in the way of self-care? So tell me about some of these things. What are you hearing? What are you telling yourself? Go ahead and chat to me one or two of the things that you're hearing. I'm just going to give it a minute or two. And one of my, hopefully one of my friends out there in the ether. Oh, I see something. I love this. If I do it myself, I know it will be done right. I love that. Oh my God, they're coming in like wildfire. Thanks, Adrian, for getting the party started. I'll never catch up. It's all my responsibility. It's easier to do it myself than to take the time to train someone else. Amen. It's my job to shoulder the stress for others. I don't have time. Someone has to help. If I don't do it, nobody will. I'll do it next week. Next week never comes. Megan, I see Megan is in here. Definitely the things will slow down once we get past fill in the blank. That's why they pay me the big bucks, LOL. It's just easier to do it myself. There aren't enough hours in a day. I need to make sure I meet the expected numbers for the month. If not me, then who? All people in my position are busy. This is just how leadership is. It's never ending. Sometimes I don't have the patience and just do it myself because it's easier and it will get done faster. I have to always be available. Oh my gosh, you guys are amazing. Amazing in how this obviously struck a chord. I should be doing more, not enough seconds in a minute, et cetera, et cetera. My gosh, just keep going. Too many people depend on me and I don't want to let them down. Hey, Matt, let's see. It looks like there's a lot of these things, right? I could go on, but think about what is that narrative? What are you telling yourself? And is it fact or fiction? So what is this ideal performance state, right? What is this nirvana state that we're all trying to get to? Well, it really is about bringing your full talents and skills to bear, bringing those to bear, fully igniting and sustaining performance over time. It means being able to mobilize energy on demand, having the energy when you need to do things, and tapping into that energy across physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual domains. It also means putting a system in place for yourself, right? A system of rituals and habits. So there is the amazing Serena Williams. I was so curious about Serena and how does she do self-care, right? So I just kind of, I Googled it. And I came across a Vogue article, and here's what Serena does when it comes to taking care of herself. Spa days, styling sessions, and a little bit of Nintendo help keep the tennis star in a place of balance. I love the video game part. That cracks me up. So here's what she said. It's so easy to forget you and say, I don't really care about me. I need to make sure everything else is going good. Trying to make sure I have a little Serena time is essential. So for those of you who plug something into the chat, for all of you, I want you to think about how are you going to take a little time for yourself, a little fill in the blank time, a little Eden time, a little Shelley time, and so on and so forth. One more kind of physical manifestation of the ideal performance state. So you may think that it's the go, 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 right? That gets things done. Well, really, it's about movement between the go, 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 which is energy expenditure, and the other side, which is energy renewal. So the authors talk about this and they call it oscillation, which sounds very fancy. I just thought of a fan. So I had to grab a little image of that fan to think about the notion of oscillation. We expend energy, which is stress, and stress is good in this case. Stress is when we're going for it, we're all in. And then we move over to recovery. This is the secret sauce, people. It really is the precise routine of oscillation. If you can make that become automatic, you will be on your way to the ideal performance state. So let's get into this pyramid, this cool high performance pyramid. We're going to start at the bottom with physical capacity. We're going to move into emotional, mental, and spiritual. And in each of these cases, I'm going to define it and tell you what it is. And then I'm going to provide some ideas on habits and rituals to build your capacity in that space. So let's start with physical capacity, right? It all starts here. Energy formed in the body. That is our main energy source. Exercise. I can't tell you, and I don't think I have to tell you how important it is. The scientific benefits are indisputable, obviously, for your health. But think about it not just as I need to run a marathon or I need to work out all the time. No, think about it as that oscillation between exercise and movement and rest and restoration. So let's talk about some of the benefits, right? Our ability to move, to exercise, to expend energy releases serotonin. I'm no doctor, I'm not a clinician, but I know about serotonin and I know it's something good. It helps you sleep, it helps you stay positive, and it focuses your mind. The authors in particular point to strength training as a really great way to alleviate anxiety and depression. And that's music to my ears because I would much rather lift weights than run on a treadmill. So, what are some of the rituals here? Rituals would be things that you enjoy, workouts, balancing, and maybe finding an accountability partner or a friend. Aim for consistency over extremes, right? Just figure out what you like and try and stick with it. You're going to have your ups and downs, and we're going to talk about that in each of these capacities. It's not a straight line. You will have days when you just can't do it, and that's okay because you'll get back to it when you can. I threw in a picture of an Apple Watch here. This has been a game changer for me. I'm pretty late to the party on this whole Apple Watch thing, but man, those rings are amazing, amazingly motivating in an odd way for me to close them every day. So I know a bunch of you already know this, but the red ring is for movement, the green is for exercise, and the blue is actually standing. Something as simple as having this watch ping me every hour and say it's time to stand is so huge. And it makes me realize over the years, I would sit and write and check email and focus. And I probably would not get up for hours at a time, except maybe to go to the bathroom. Other times I just held it. So this is big, and you got to figure out what's your thing that's going to help you put these rituals in place and stick with them. So let's move over to the next capacity, which is emotional. This one's really important. Emotional capacity can really be equated to your mental health and the ability to regulate your emotions and to navigate all of the ups and downs of life. If you look on the left side, what does it mean? It's really twofold. It's the ability to regulate your emotions, as I said, for your own performance. And it's also the emotional stability to bring out the best in your team. In the article, one of the clients of the Human Performance Institute really was having a hard time maintaining emotional stability with his team, right? So kind of the getting angry, getting frustrated. And that was something where they put in place some rituals like calming down, breathing, really kind of visioning the outcome that was needed and wanted in order to change that behavior. So positive emotions, right? What does that do for us? Well, and what are they? Things like happiness and calm. Those are good, right? We want more of those. The thing about negative emotions is they don't just hurt other people and hurt us, they drain our energy. The time we spend being frustrated, impatient, angry, fearful, all of that is taking away from our ability to perform at our highest level. So I have, as I kind of got ready for this presentation, I did some crowdsourcing, which basically just means you talk to people, right, and ask them what they do. So you'll see on the right side, mindfulness and practicing it. There's an app for that, right? So the Calm app has become really pervasive. Shelley, who I mentioned before, who owns Crossworks, uses that in stressful situations to really kind of slow her breathing. And you'll see breathing deeply is on the list, staying grounded. All of those things are going to help you be your best. I got permission from my client, Andrew Mullins, who is the CEO of Lifeline, to talk a little bit about his journey. He started meditating. It was something that we talked about, and he's really kind of put this into action in a pretty powerful way. He gets up earlier in the morning, about an hour earlier, meditates, reads, prays, and really kind of takes that time to slow down. He and the Lifeline team have also made meditation and workshops around things like listening and breathing available to all of their employees. So think about where do these things show up for you? And maybe there are some things that you can do for your team. So I've talked about some ideas here, some rituals. Let's get back into the chat because that is really fun for me to see all of you. What are the things that you do in order to stay in a place of good mental health, to stay calm, to help yourself navigate the ups and downs? So tell me, I'm going to wait and be excited for hopefully those of you who are out there to start throwing some ideas. Walking and standing meetings. I love that. Thanks, Adrian. I'm actually at my standing desk right now, and I go up and down throughout the day. I love the idea of walking meetings, 30-minute workout in the morning, spending time with God, counseling, journaling, working out, early morning meditation, workout every morning, exercise, cooking, reading every night before bed, daily prayer, mindfulness, time outside. These are coming in so fast. If I miss yours, please forgive me. Hiking is in there. Burst of activity for 5 minutes every hour. Cool. Spending time in nature, thought downloads to see what I'm thinking, identify thoughts that are negative and don't serve me. Love it. Listening to and watching birds, walking, more morning walking, gardening, evening reading. You've got a lot of good ideas there to choose from. I just got a couple more. Spending time with kids and nature and personal dance parties. That is awesome. So think about what is going to work for you. One of the things, probably one of the biggest things that we espouse and teach at Crossworks is self-awareness. What works for me or works for one of you may not work for somebody else. You got to tap into what are my needs? What is going to allow me to find peace and calm and sustain myself and then go after it? It's not the same for everybody. The next layer of the pyramid is mental capacity. So you may be saying, what's the difference between emotional capacity and mental capacity? Well, whereas emotional capacity is about feelings, think of mental capacity as about cognition. Things like, and you'll see it there on the left, focus, time management, critical thinking. Tapping into our mental capacity keeps us sharp, keeps us productive. And guess what? It's not about reading more articles from the Harvard Business Review, although that's a good thing to do, or taking classes or getting certifications. It's really around thinking about how you manage your time and what you are feeding to your brain. One of the main areas that the authors talk about, one of the recommendations is setting boundaries. And this is something so many of our clients at Crossworks really struggle with. The ability to turn it off, to say, I will give this much time, and then I have to decompress, I have to unplug. I fell into the trap for a lot of years, right? There was a certain sort of badge that we wore around working all the time. I fall into it sometimes, but certainly not all the time anymore, because I think about oscillation. Work hard, go at it, but then figure out how you're going to rest and restore. So why does this matter? Why is taking breaks important? And a number of you have already figured this out based on what I saw in the chat function, but listen to these benefits around taking breaks. You can prevent decision fatigue, renew strength and motivation, increase productivity and creativity, consolidate memory, and improve learning. If that isn't a good list of reasons why to take breaks, I don't think I could come up with anything better. The last bullet point is around visioning. I have a client, my clients are so cool and they teach me so many things. I have a client who creates vision boards with her husband. They started doing this in 2019. And think of a vision board. A number of you have probably made one or at least know about one where you pull images from magazines of things that motivate you, that are part of your hopes, your dreams. And she and her husband created this, and they have created a 20-year goal vision board, right? Where do we want to be in 20 years? And it's things like travel, financial security, things that they want to do as a family with their kiddos. Then they take that 20 years, those goals that seem really big and far off, and break it down into smaller goals, 10 years, 5 years, 2-year goals. And these vision boards evolve. They change them when they have inspiration. They add photos, they add goals, etc. So know that sometimes all it takes is that image of what you want your life to look like in order to move forward in the behaviors that will get you there. All right, the top of the pyramid, spiritual capacity. This is not necessarily about religion, although that could be very much part of it. It really is about tapping into that which gives you purpose. I don't think that's a big issue or a gap for most of the people here today. You have a strong sense of purpose. It's why you do what you do. But think about it beyond work. Think about spiritual capacity as tapping into your deepest values. It's your why, right? Why do I do what I do? In order to feed that spiritual capacity, you may want to spend time reflecting, being of service. There's the yoga and the meditation, the prayer, the journaling, even identifying your core values, which is another important exercise that we take our clients through. What's your why? The reason why all this is so important is because it's going to help you face those hard, dark times, right? We all face adversity. It is our ability to tap into our spiritual capacity that's going to give us the motivation to keep going, the focus, the resilience. Spiritual capacity is the top of the pyramid. Once again, it's different for every one of us, but tapping into that is going to really help bring out your very best. So I told you we were going to talk about you, and we are. We're going to take this down to a set of simple goals and aspirations that you are going to take with you and hopefully use to make some positive changes in your life. Before we do that, I need to spend a little bit more time on creating habits and rituals because this is what it is all about. We already have habits, right? Some of them not so good, others are positive, but look, 40% of our behaviors are habitual. If you're interested in the science around behaviors, and a number of you have probably read this book called Atomic Habits, that really takes you through a protocol and a framework to really become an expert at putting habits into place. Not surprisingly, it's about consistency. It's about commitment, making whatever you decide you're going to do a priority and sticking to it. Consistency outperforms the short, intensive bursts, right? The extremes. I found really a way to create a habit more than anything is to have an accountability partner or factor. I will share that when it comes to exercise, it's been really effective for me to have a personal trainer. My husband is a personal trainer, but he is not my personal trainer because we have that whole separation of church and state thing going on. But know that the reason why I've done that, the reason why I've invested in that training is because of accountability. If I were just on my own, and this is true, I might say, well, I got to get this report done, or I've got to do this, or I've got to do that, or I'll do it later. When I have somebody who is waiting for me, who is counting on me, I not only disappoint myself, I feel like I'm disappointing them. So that would be something. And if it's not a trainer, think about maybe if you want to start a walking group with your colleagues or friends, something that gets you up and out. When I was at Cardinal, before the gym was built, I really wanted to start getting some exercise in during the day. So a group of us started walking up and down the back stairwell of Cardinal during lunch, just up and down, up and down. And that was a way for us to be active and to have some movement. So let's talk about action, because there's a greatness to learning and thinking, but you're not going to get there without some doing. So before the end of the week or within the week, you are going to get an email from the Columbus Foundation. And I'm going to give some tools for you. I'm going to give you a copy of the Harvard Business Review article, The Making of a Corporate Athlete, another article I found. And most importantly, you're going to get your own self-care, self-assessment, and action plan. Simple one-pager. You're going to rate yourself on where you are in terms of each level of the high performance pyramid. And we're going to encourage you to select an area to work on, right? Many of us would be tempted, hey, I'm going to work on all four, right? But actually, you might be more successful in picking one or two. Setting aside time on your calendar, right? We talk about, I'm going to put my meditation, my spending time with friends, my whatever it is, listening to a podcast, I'm going to put it on my calendar like it's a meeting. Just do it because it does work. I want you to think in terms of these things are just as important or sometimes more important than the work at hand, than what you have going on that day. A couple of bits of inspiration, right? Expect progress, not perfection. We all want to do the right thing, and there are times when it's easier than others. Life gets in the way, as they say, so be patient. Be patient with yourself and be patient with others. In closing, self-care is not a luxury. It is not about spas and going to India on a mission. I love those things, so I take it back. It may or may not be about those things, but it is essential. It is essential in order to be the person that you want to be for yourself, for your organization, for your family, and so on and so forth. I know that my journey continues in really trying to become the best version of me. And I will continue to be a work in progress. I hope that you found some inspiration or maybe an idea or two in this today. And I am going to now turn it back over to Danielle to open us up for questions and answers.
Thank you so much, Eden. That was a wonderful presentation. This is your time, those folks in our audience, to add your questions to the question and answer area, and additionally be expecting that poll that we talked about at the beginning. Really wanting to hear from you to learn more about how you felt about this forum and other forums. Eden, some of the things it popped up right now. So let us know if you're having any trouble with that. Just go ahead and leave that in the chat box. But we're looking forward to hearing from you. Eden, I am certainly guilty of a couple of those things you mentioned at the beginning of our presentation. In particular, I have been known to say that things will slow down at XYZ point. In fact, there is a meme that says adulthood is just saying that things are going to slow down in a month perpetually for the rest of your life. And I found in recent years that I certainly fall into that category. And so my first question for you today is around that this oscillation you brought up. So that cycle, it seems like we may have to force ourselves into that cycle, especially when it feels like we're swinging from perpetual busy period to busy period. Can you talk a little bit about how folks can make those intentional shifts to just kind of stick the oscillation in there?
I love that. Yes. So like I mentioned, it's about habits and routines and accountability. So believe me, I didn't know any of this stuff until more recently than you would guess, around taking breaks and the benefits and all of that. So what I do now, and certainly others could share their ideas. What I do is I look at my day, my week, my month, and see when are those busy times. I look ahead to when am I going to be doing workshops? When am I going to be doing speaking opportunities like this one? When am I going to travel, right? And I know that those take a ton of my energy. So before them and after them, you better believe I'm going to have some time on my calendar to rest and restore. I need that more than other people. Some people are able to just go, go, go. They have really high physical energy. That's part of what we learn when we take what's called the Berkman method assessment. We learn about what are our needs, what are our ways of being. I know that I need a lot of downtime. So that kind of throughout the day, looking at little breaks. And when I'm working from home, I move from room to room. I'm literally picking up my stuff to have some movement. I sit down and then I go back up. I have my workouts that are scheduled throughout the week. So that oscillation, Danielle, really, I want you to think about, and all of you, to look at your day, your week, and your month, and figure out what are your times that you are going to rest and restore. We're going to have plenty of times when we're expending energy, right? We're always expending energy. What we leave out is the time to rest and restore.
Thank you for that. One thing that you mentioned there was the importance of planning in advance. And again, this entire forum, I think that you've created it specifically for me. In fact, the title page should just say, "Hey, Danielle." So that planning period, I find that feels the bumpiest, especially in the beginning when you're trying to make time where you haven't otherwise created a schedule for it. And thinking through, what your work schedule is going to look like, putting all of those different calendars for all of the different roles you play together, and figuring out where it is that you can take those breaks. I have found that there's no perfect time, and there's no moment where all of those calendars align. And so sometimes it requires some prioritization as well, and prioritization of yourself over some of the other things. You talked about physical energy in your presentation, and some people might have a natural propensity for more physical energy than others. And it occurs to me that as a person who might have had a long-standing habit of pushing oneself, I might not be able to identify that I am truly not a high physical energy person or where my boundaries are. Can you talk a little bit about self-awareness and learning how to identify where those boundaries are?
Absolutely. Um, I'll mention again, just because it's been so powerful in my life and the life of my clients, having an assessment like the Berkman method or another one of these that really taps into what makes you tick. What do you need? I didn't realize that I had a need, my physical energy being on the lower side. I have a higher need than other people for rest and restoration. Other ways, Danielle, that you can kind of try and jumpstart this is maybe looking ahead for the entire month feels daunting, right? I get the thing. I have like 3 or 4 calendars for the different work that I do. So if you ever come up with a way to kind of bring it all together, there probably is an app for that. I would be the first one to sign up. But maybe just think about the week ahead. Maybe just take it 1 week at a time. Like I said, my Apple Watch tells me to stand up. I have a friend, my friend Marlo, who'll say, let's go for a walk. And what I try to do more than anything, Danielle and friends out there, I try to say yes. I used to say, no, I don't have time. I don't have time. My modus operandus now is just try it. I found an opportunity through Go Yoga to go to a sound bath. And that's kind of those, I don't even know how to describe it. Some of you out there have probably experienced a sound bath. I just thought that sounds so cool. So I grabbed a bunch of my friends and we went and we experienced that. So I think, try to say yes to these new experiences, to trying new things that maybe you'll say, I love that.
So what you're saying of the concept around saying yes, it reminds me of a book that I believe it was Shonda Rhimes wrote called The Year of Yes.
Yes.
And I have not cracked that open yet because the concept of saying yes to everything for a year kind of made me feel overwhelmed. But I love this narrowing of scope that you have here of a year of saying yes to myself. And a year of saying yes to new ways to try to prioritize myself. We have 2 questions in the chat box. The first one says, could you speak to some of the language we should use as we establish boundaries with those around us? I'm thinking employees, coworkers who ask much of us as leaders as they tempt us to work outside of our established hours.
Yeah, I love that one. And it's very relevant because another nonprofit leader I'm working with, we've been figuring out, how does she prevent burnout? How does she get ahead of it? Because it's coming, right? You know it. You feel it in your body when you're starting to just say, I'm depleted, right? When your vessel, right, is becoming depleted. So we looked and said, what are the days maybe where you can block some time where maybe you're working from home and you have that thinking time or you have that dedicated time where you don't feel annoyed when people are walking in and out of your office. Because we all want to be available. We want to be accessible, right? But sometimes you just have to create your own boundaries. It is okay to close the door, right? We don't have to have an open door all the time. I remember, gosh, this was crazy. Way back in the Wayback Machine when I was an intern at NCR in Dayton, AT&T purchased the company, and the new CEO came in and he took all the doors off the offices. People were freaking out. So it was kind of this idea of we are all accessible, but I would say to you, it's okay to not be accessible all the time. Did that answer that question?
I think it did. And I think it's a great answer I'm thinking about way back when I was doing my own consulting work with organizations. It was a lot of times folks didn't realize that they had this as an option. The other thing I would say is that I know a lot of the folks in our audience are leaders, whether it be of an organization, of a department within an organization. And so if you feel that you yourself are approaching burnout, or you feel overwhelmed by the pace, or you feel any of those negative emotions, I would say take a moment to step back and think about what the rest of the organization looks like as well, and how those feelings might be, how your staff might be experiencing those as well. If you don't feel like you can have a closed door policy, does your staff feel like they can have one? And maybe that's an opportunity to look at creating a department-wide or staff-wide closed door hours situation, something that allows others to take care of themselves as well. So it takes that guilt, I think, away from a leader in engaging in self-care when it becomes an organization priority.
Yeah, you are so right. And I recall another thing that was a total sort of misperception, or I thought I was doing the right thing back in the day when I had a big team of people. And I would work, I'd be up at 11, 12, I would be sending emails, but then I would go in and I would say, hey, I don't expect that of all of you. That's just what I do. That's kind of a mixed message. So now I would say create some norms. I did a workshop not too long ago where the team said, we feel like we don't have balance. So what they agreed to was at a certain time in the evening, they would no longer email each other. If they really needed something, right? You only have so many kind of passes, they would text each other. Other than that, you don't need to be on email 24/7. I'm coaching an employee right now. She is actually on her way to Disneyland with her kids for 7 days, and she is not going to be checking email. Right? Like, how can you do that? She set everything up in advance. She had a plan. Who's going to take over what? Her boss was in on it. They worked the plan together, and she is going to go actually have that experience with her family, versus what I remember doing is kind of looking like, okay, guys, why don't you go get a hot dog? I'm gonna check my email. I wasn't fully present. And that's what happens when we don't create those boundaries.
What you're saying really struck a chord for me, because I take what I'd like to call escape shoot vacations, where I'm just saying, oh, I need to take a break right now. I'm scheduling time. I'm taking time off tomorrow, and I can never fully engage because I haven't made enough plan in advance to fully engage in that vacation. But, if I were smarter at this, I would plan my vacations farther out so that I have more runway before I get to them and can truly fully engage in the vacation because I've made plans before I left. So that advanced planning continues to come up for us in this conversation. We have 2 more questions in the chat. One says, what can we do to help better balance our work and school time with making time for ourselves to work out or to partake in other self-care activities? Possible scheduling it, making sure we stick to it.
Gotcha. You're going to hear me saying over and over again, the power of habits, which kind of makes me laugh, because I would say I was not always the most disciplined person. I'm a bit more of a let's just have fun. But what I've discovered is I really like my life with habits. And working out, let's talk about that. It doesn't have to be 7 days a week, right? It doesn't have to be 5. If you can commit to 2 or 3 days a week, maybe 30 minutes where you're really working up a sweat, you're doing it right, that is phenomenal. And guess what? I am, and folks I know, we're having less injuries, right? The restoration, the relaxation between the working out is just as important as the workout itself. So I would say make it realistic, make it doable. Don't set goals for yourself that are going from 0 to 100, right? Start off with 1 day a week and then add a second day and think about kind of your time and in blocks, right? When am I working? When am I taking care of myself, my sleep schedule? All of it is part of a larger system.
So we have some some folks commenting in the
Cool.
chat that I wanted to make sure we highlight. Someone is saying that they're referencing Atomic Habits, and what really worked for them is to identify a new habit with who you are, a characteristic of yourself, rather than something you do. For example, I am a runner versus I run sometimes. And I really think that that's important. I did this with myself as morning person, as someone who previously strongly identified with being a night owl, but that wasn't functional for my lifestyle anymore. I just decided one day I'm a morning person, and sometimes I sleep in. And over
Amen.
time, it transitioned. We also have some folks in the chat that are saying, oh, so you have to model self-care. For me, I think that's something, even as a parent, that I think through a lot. What kind of employee would I want my children to be? And how do I show them that it's okay to put boundaries between work and home? How do I show them that it's okay to indulge recklessly in play? Recently, so this is a moment of transparency for all the folks on the call today. Recently, I found a class that is adult gymnastics and tumbling. So those of you who have taken your toddlers to tumbling class and gymnastics class, well, we have an entire nearly 40-year-old adult who is now engaging just to find a way to have more physical activity and show my children an adult that has fun, because it occurred to me that, you know, my husband and I look like very boring adults. And I wanted to show my kids something different. So certainly modeling self-care for family, also modeling it for staff as well. Those are really important. We have another comment about the book called Deep Work, also a great one. That talking about a good theory about solitude for generating our best thoughts. So giving yourself that alone time and that silence and building it in your schedule to be able to cultivate those thoughts. So we have another question here that says, can you comment on care? Oh, it's what I think it's called sandwich generation question.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. How can you comment on how caregivers can best embrace finding the balance when they have demanding day jobs and home life, caring for children and or aging parents? I have a question about this as well.
Okay. Well, man, this one really hits home. And a number of you who know me know that part of the reason why I left my corporate job was because my dad, who retired without really a plan, he was a professor and that was his entire life and his sense of self, he became extremely depressed to the point of not wanting to live. So to me, that was a moment where I said, this job that I have only means so much if my dad isn't going to be able to survive. I mean, that brings it to a very real place. So that was part of my reason to step away, was to take care of him. So the notion of being a caregiver, and being a mom and trying to take care of my dad is something I think about all the time. And I feel guilty. I feel guilty when I haven't gone to see my dad. He's just in Dayton. But by the time I go there, I spend time with him and drive back. It ends up being about a day. So I'm still grappling with it. I'm trying to sort of figure out and crowdsource what are the ways that you figure out a rhythm. I will tell you, to all the caregivers out there, it makes a big difference once your loved one is safe. When they are, whether at home or whether in a assisted living, or in my dad's case, essentially a facility for people with all forms of dementia, when they're safe, you can breathe. And that has made all the difference. And really kind of looking at how can we use our network, our smarts, our resources to get our loved ones the best care possible. And then know that we also have to take care of ourselves. You can't just give everything to everybody else and then not have anything left for you. I'd be happy to answer more questions. I could go on all day about it. I'm still figuring it out myself.
Yeah, I think one of the things that at least but I think is popularized within our culture is the guilt that folks feel that I know is an energy expenditure all by itself. And how we attend to our various relationships, whether it be our parents or our children or both of those combined. I am the grateful daughter of an only child of my parents. And so this is something I think about a lot, being an only child. How much time am I able to give to my parents who have given so much for me, and the guilt that happens when I'm not able to hold my standard, which may not be the right standard, but it is the standard that is in my head around how to manage this relationship along with the rest of my life, including my marriage, my children, my career, etc. So I think, if you could talk a little bit about how we hold guilt or release that guilt, and how to make that a ritual, I think that would be helpful. And then we have 2 more questions in the chat I'd like to get to you.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, the guilt question, right? If we're not, it's, I think of life and kind of our roles we play as whack-a-mole, right? Somebody's got something they need, right? Whether it's my kid who's struggling, or something is happening with my husband or my dad or my sister. We feel like we somehow have to solve everyone's problems. And that's where the guilt comes in. I should have done X, or I should have done Y. I think I've gotten to the place where I say, I don't have to solve all their problems. I just have to be kind and loving and supportive and helpful, but I can't fix all of the things that need to be fixed. So that is kind of taking some of the onus off of you. I will also say, I'm in therapy. I have to have a counselor to go talk to about my dad, about any things that are going on at work. My mom, who passed away, gosh, it's been 21 years since she passed. She was a therapist. So I grew up, and she was going to school when I was a kid. So she was learning the practice of counseling and therapy. So we were all in therapy, right? It was like everyone in the family. So it was kind of normal. So I will tell you, all throughout my life, sometimes I've gone to therapy, but when I start feeling that angst, when I feel like I'm not functioning well, when I'm starting to get irrational, when I'm starting to cry, right? It's time to go back to therapy. And that's something that, it's like taking care of your physical health. You got to take care of your emotional health.
I think that actually leads really well into the next question, the question we have in our chat box, in a weird sort of way, but hang with me. So we know individual therapy is very important, and folks taking on the onus on themselves to pursue those resources. Our chat box question asks about building in systems within organizations that create a company culture of allowing this. And I'm thinking of a company culture of giving folks time to do therapy, of access to those resources. And the example here says, how do you make it so that you don't have to coach people to take a 7-day vacation without checking email? And it just, they say, it just seems like something's got to give. Such a pace seems unsustainable for leaders and staff. So how do you coach that sort of thing?
It starts with the leader. It is the shadow that we cast as leaders to say, I want something better for myself and for other people. And I think we have come a long way in that. I remember sort of like pretending that I was at an offsite meeting when I was going to a doctor appointment. That was crazy. Remember those days? Or I would skip the doctor appointments because something came up. So what I would say around, oh my goodness, look at me. I just forgot the question.
Oh, yeah, no problem. This has been such an incredibly deep session
I'm
that I
like,
think it makes
what am I
sense.
talking?
It's about, you were right on it, but it's about how we create a company culture of therapy, taking vacations without checking email, and sometimes doing that, even for the leader, feels unsustainable.
Thank you. I just needed a quick reminder. So I get so into it, I forget sometimes what I'm talking about. So there are all levels of that. Think about the big companies that have programs and gyms and wellness centers and EAP, all that. It doesn't have to be that big or that sophisticated. You could have an organization of 5 people or less say, we're going to make a commitment to do things a little differently. We are going to have meeting-free Friday afternoon. We are going to hold each other accountable and reward each other when we hit certain goals around our health, around taking care of ourselves. The hybrid workplace, for me, has been extraordinarily helpful. I am in a unique and really lucky position where I call my own shots, right? I decide when I'm going to go into an office, when I am going to not be in the office. You better believe I work a lot, but it's on my own terms. So giving your employees a sense that they can do some of these things on their own terms. They have agency, not making everybody do the same thing, not treating everybody the same. Some people love to be in the office 5 days a week. Others find it crushing. I would be one of those. So figure out what you can do and make it something that doesn't feel like you have to spend $1 million or implement programs, and get your employees to help you figure out what do they need versus making it up on your own, because their needs may be different from yours.
We have a chat that says there are ways to encourage self-care systematically, including recognizing and rewarding positive behaviors, leading by example, and recognizing that self-care looks different to different people. That was really well put. As you said, even for the smallest of organization, because I know that we have a variety of different types of orgs on the call today, the modeling component can't be more valued. Your folks, your staff, they see when you respond to emails, and they see your countenance when you are receiving folks coming into your office at all various different times, and are thereby encouraged to model that behavior, whether you intend it or not. I would also say that sometimes encouraging sort of systemic solutions to self-care requires a bit of bravery on the behalf of the leader, to be willing to try out something new with their staff members, see how it works, take feedback from the staff, and then adapt the system and try again. And sometimes that is a challenge, because you think, oh, how am I supposed to control these things? How am I supposed to make sure that the work is getting done, which I know is a big concern for folks. But that flexibility and that willingness to test is going to be really important in this area. So we have one more question in the chat box. It says, I found the Berkman questionnaire and the report about myself especially helpful to identify my personal needs. Can you talk about how that work can be done with nonprofit teams?
Absolutely. We do it with nonprofit teams all the time. So if you're interested in the Berkman method, I would say first and foremost, check it out. It's Birkman. Roger Berkman was an industrial psychologist who created this Berkman method as his thesis, which is really cool. His daughter has since taken over the company. We have found it to be just very powerful. So to answer that question, get in touch with me, get in touch with Shelley Stotzer. get in touch with Crossworks, and we'd love to talk to you about Berkman and maybe how we can support your organization in a way that meets your needs and your goals and aspirations.
All right, we have some really great stuff coming through in the chat as well that I wanted to share with you. We have someone that said they often use the schedule send when they're working in the evening or overnight so that their teammates don't have to feel the pressure to respond immediately. I too use the schedule send to make sure that my emails are sent during the workday. But that also means that you are sending emails outside of the workday. So definitely looking into your own work-life balance. Maybe this works for you. However, if you're like me and you have insomnia and so you wake up to schedule emails, maybe making a different choice. And then we have another that gave some language around how to start talking about this type of self-care as a culture with your own organizational leadership or within your own organization. It says, I just attended a session at the Columbus Foundation, and lots of local nonprofits are countering staff burnout by incorporating a wellness culture. Would you be open to me creating a committee to explore this more for us? So that's in the chat, copy, paste it, and save it to your desktop so that you have your own language around that. So that covers all the questions for today. If we don't have any more, Eden, this session felt cleansing all by itself. Thank you so much for the information that you brought to us today. It was so real and so from the heart, and I really appreciate hearing it. I want everyone else. Oh, I'm sorry. Were you going to say something?
No, I was just going to thank you, Danielle. We've only known each other for like a minute and a half, but I am excited to stay in touch, and I would love to be helpful to you in whatever way I can, and whatever way Crossworks can.
Yes, it was wonderful. Thank you so much for presenting today. So everyone who's on our call, if you haven't had a chance to do so yet, please go ahead and take that survey that we posted earlier. Also keep an eye out on your email inbox for those wonderful resources that Eden will be sending to you. The copy of this forum will be in there as well as the slides. And if you have any questions for us, feel free to reach out. We'll look forward to seeing you next month. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Bye for now.
Bye.